hold your own financially, basically.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, Maureen, if I may ask, like, how did you guys get started using, digital platforms for, your businesses? How did it just pop up?
So my background is marketing. Mm-hmm. And when I was thinking about doing my master's, that's when the digital frontier was really coming up. That's way back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I started looking around for a university where I can do my master's in marketing, but I couldn't find. So I started exploring international options. But then, of course, other things, cost, competing priorities, I got pregnant, so I really had to put that on hold. Yeah. Then I came across a link online that said, hey, we are offering free training on digital platforms. So then I just leaned in and I started really going to the internet to look around and to see what I can do during my pregnancy journey, because my pregnancy was also a bit complicated. Mm-hmm. So I was on bed rest for some time. Yeah. So during that phase, I said, let me immerse myself. So I signed up for these free courses online and I started learning about digital. Also, social media was also emerging at the time. Mm-hmm. And I remember I'd moved into the community that I still live in. And one of my friends, or a lady who was in the community, was already running a group on a social media platform. And she was moving out of the estate. So she said, can somebody adapt the page? And I was really taking the lessons I was learning in class to this group, and then it became such a neat group and women started transacting. So that was my first interaction, seeing that women can actually use digital platforms to trade. Yeah. And then I ended up really building a whole venture around it. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Kev, would you have any questions?
I'm just thinking about...
You were in deep thought. I feel
like you're crazy. So I'm just curious. So most of the women that you work with, for example, are these typically African urban women in the urban settings? Who are you targeting? Is it all women? Because I'm assuming in certain areas, remote areas around, of course, for example, in Kenya, probably don't even have access to digital infrastructure.
So we started off very organically, which was just down here in your estate.
Yeah.
So that is still continues to be our primary market. But because of digital platforms, we've been able to reach out to women, even in the rural areas. They may not have access to proper internet, but some do. Yeah. So our reach is not very deep in there, but we've been able to, sometimes we take our programs there, through partners, but mostly we focus on women in the urban areas.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, we've worked with women in Kenya, we've worked with some women in Nigeria, and currently Uganda as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest skills that you're teaching women out here, for example?
So first of all, it's just you have most women who have access to your social media platforms. How are you using that? Other than being on the social platform, are you using it to access knowledge that can make you move forward? It can be educational, it could be personal, it could be relating to health.
Yeah.
What are you doing? So we are really equipping women. First level is the internet is an amazing place, and you can use it to convert it into meaningful things and also generate income from there.
Yeah.
And then we go there and we also teach women how to formalize their businesses. You do know that women run businesses in Africa, and the reason why we are left out on policy, we are left out on decision making, is because our businesses over the years, centuries actually, continue to be informal. So we are now teaching women equipping them with skills on how can they formalize their businesses such that they're able to have businesses that can either move forward after they've left, and then how then are they leveraging on digital to promote their products, to sell on the internet, and to get money.
Yeah. It's amazing. What's your biggest success story, for example?
Wow. What are you looking at in terms of success? Are you looking at the thing that
in terms of the knowledge that you instilled in somebody, and then they got out there, started their own business, and they impacted like massive number of people?
So let me bring the one that is very fresh. There's multiple, but sometime last year, I think it was last year, I'm very big online. So I especially use LinkedIn and Facebook and WhatsApp status to say what I do. So there's this young lady from Uganda who got wind of what we were doing, and she started following me on LinkedIn, and then she inboxed me one time. I said, hey, I like the work you're doing, and I live in Uganda, and I'd love to really set up something similar. I'm doing it, but I think I want to do it to the same scale. And she said, do you mind if I move this conversation to either WhatsApp? And we moved the conversation to WhatsApp, and we chatted, and this brilliant lady took a flight and came to Kenya.
Wow.
She took a flight, came to Kenya, and we met. We sat in the entire afternoon on a Saturday afternoon. And I said, just start, this is what you're doing. She was already doing it, but she wasn't, I think at the time she just needed to, the motivation to move forward. So Saturday afternoon, I sit with her, we have coffee the entire afternoon. And then Monday morning, I pick her up and I said, hey, I'll just take you around Kenya to show you some of the things that women are doing. So I took her around to women businesses that I look up to, and she left. She was inspired, and she's now running an amazing center in Uganda supporting women and teaching them how to run businesses. So I think that's just the power of the internet, and really I count it as success because it was just something that started on as a conversation, and she's done so much between the last few months.
I'm sure you've got tons of success stories as well. Tell us at least your top one.
Okay, off the top of my head, so the foundation started, the Tony Mill Foundation started in 2010, but then we decided to focus squarely on entrepreneurship in 2015. So that's about 10 years now. And during the first cohorts, we had one young lady from Nigeria apply, Princess Adeyinka. She applied with just an idea. She wanted to build a Starbucks for Africa, right? And today, her business is called Happy Coffee, and Happy Coffee is one of the biggest coffee brands that we have out of Africa today. And she's done so many amazing things. I think in terms of job creation, both direct and indirect jobs, she's created over 100 jobs. So she works with farmers, female farmers locally in northern Nigeria. So I think that for us, the success story is not just through the entrepreneurs we empower, it's also the people that they are able to empower because of the training, because of the funding that they've received from the foundation. It's just that ripple effect, because you give somebody $5,000 to prove their concept, and they're able to build a sustainable business, and they're able to hire more hands, and those people in turn are able to feed their families. They're able to economically empower themselves and their families. I think for us, that's the beauty of what we do. That's the legacy that we want to leave behind. And we've done this for over 10 years now with 20,000 entrepreneurs. So we have many more princesses, many more moorings
Awesome.
across Africa, and that's really amazing for us.
I'm just curious to know, I don't know, maybe we're not getting it right, or we don't know how to do it. What platforms do you guys mostly use to make the most effective impact to your people? And then how do you create engaging content that really reaches out to your target audience? I'd like to probably just
maybe I can pick it up from there. So in 2016, I had built this venture, and amazing venture, and then I brought in an investor who ended up edging me out. So I was very frustrated. And then, of course, I'd spoken to some of my friends about it. So one time a friend of mine just pushes this message on WhatsApp, and she says, I think you need to apply for this. So I went through and I looked at the minimum qualifications. So this was the Tony Meli Foundation saying that we are looking to support people with ideas between 0 to 3 years. And I ticked, I think, 80% of the boxes. And then I clicked and I apply. And that really, from the internet to my WhatsApp, and then as usual, I went and I started looking. I went on the internet, I researched, and I was like, okay, looks credible. Let me just give it a shot. So then I did apply, and then I got into the program, and they have we got trained fully digitally on how to run the business setup, and they have their own learning platform, which we used to access the training, and then subsequently, of course, we just plugged into the other social media platforms. So it's been an amazing journey since 2017. So I got into the program 2017, and of course I brought her here because then that's just to show how I'm very confident that digital works. Because if it wasn't for digital, if I didn't have WhatsApp, if there was no Facebook, if there was no internet, then this conversation would not even be happening.
Yes.
I would not have accessed this seed capital, non-refundable seed capital.
That's
actually
amazing. For young ladies who are listening to you, they're like, wow, this is so inspiring. Mom, I don't even have to go to uni anymore. I can go and work with Maureen, and she'll guide me. Do they get some sort of certification?
Yes.
Okay.
They do. You go through a 10-week program, and at the end of it, you get a certification. But to your question, if a young girl is listening, I think for me, this generation is very equipped. They're very tech savvy, and it will be, how then do you use the internet? How do you use the spaces you're in for meaningful work? So it's simple as content creation. I mean, content creation is now paying. So then, are you leaning into creating content? Do you understand how to create content? And if not, the same space, you can actually go and get tutorials. Some paid, some unpaid, but then they can still equip you and make you move forward.
So what are some of the qualifications one would need not to join your program, like the way Maureen did?
So like Maureen said, the only qualification you really need is just have an idea and just have that entrepreneurial spirit, just have that will to want to build something that is sustainable, something that can create jobs, something that can impact your immediate community. So your business, I think the only other thing, you also have to be at least 18 years old. And then if you already have a business, because we don't just accept ideas, we accept people with existing businesses, your business just cannot be more than 3 years old. So we accept, like she says, 0 to 3. So just an idea, exactly, startups. So because I know $5,000 is not really a lot. So it's really just that money that you need to prove your concept, right? And then we get you to a point where you're investor ready to attract even more investment. So even beyond the seed capital $5,000 that you receive, what we also do is ensure that our alumni community is ready to receive even follow-on funding, second stage funding. We do that with other partners that we work with. All you need to do is just be at least 18 years old, have an idea that you're passionate about, and you can build a business plan around. But then even the business plan is something that we teach during the enterprise training that Maureen spoke about. So we teach you how to put together a standard business plan that you can use to even speak to investors, to get even more funding.
Let me ask you something. From your assessment, in Africa, for example, why is it that many startups fail? And what's the difference with people, some of the women who work in your foundation, and are they successful most of the time when now they get out there after the whole program? Are they guaranteed to at least make some serious strides in terms of business consistency and at least be self-sustainable? But the question I'm asking, of course, the first question is, why do you think most startups usually fail?
I think most startups fail because I think in Africa, we have a lot of work to do in terms of creating that enabling environment for businesses to thrive, or that enabling environment for people to even be encouraged to start a business. And the truth of the matter is that not every business that you start will be successful.
I agree.
I think what qualifies you to become, to have that entrepreneurial spirit is the willingness to even try again, take the learnings from your past failures and then, put it into something else and try again and keep trying, because eventually something will work, something will stick. So I think that the fact that a lot of startups fail is not so much a reflection of the entrepreneur, right? I think that what makes, an entrepreneur a quality entrepreneur or like a successful entrepreneur is the willingness to keep trying regardless of how many times you fail. And particularly on our program, we find that there is the amount of startups who fail within our program is much less than the percentage that we have across Africa, because we don't just give them the funding, we don't just train them and let them go. We actually attach these entrepreneurs to mentors, like people who can hold their hands, people who they can call at whatever time to ask questions, because that's really important, right? You need to have somebody that you look up to, somebody that can guide you through your entrepreneurial journey, especially since you're just starting out.
I agree. I also believe in networking.
Yes.
I believe it's very important for example, young women to be around other successful young women. there's a lot that can gain. For example, even in your organization, what is the importance of networking for younger women who are getting into business and entrepreneurship?
I think it first of all feeds onto your first question. You come and join a tribe that will tell you it's okay to fail, and it is the nature of business. You know, the way you there's a nature of something. So the nature of business is some will fail and some will not. So when you plug into this community, then you find a community that's buying from you, because our first value proposition at Your Mums is access to market.
Right.
So you build a digital community where women are buying from each other, and then after that, we encourage to give you feedback, because part of the reason why sometimes you're building something that the customers don't need. So because you already have access to people who are buying and paying for your product, then in fact one of our rules is give empowering feedback, such that this person is able to build. So and also we've put up a system where we can also, as admins of the group or as the business owners, we sometimes encourage the buyers to give us feedback. And we assess the feedback and we go back to the business owners and we say, hey, we think we can tweak this. In fact, that is what has heavily informed our training and capacity building program, so that now we can handhold the women in terms of designing products and products that the customers need. Are you pricing well? Are you making profit? Because sometimes the problem of the business failing is not they're not making sales. They just didn't anticipate that level of growth. Then management issues start checking in. You're not able to manage your orders. Then it becomes a crisis. So there are multiple things that go after the second layer, where you get that, you maybe had just put up little resources to, so for example, sell 20 chapatis in a day. And then one time you get an order of 500 chapatis. What do you do as a business person? That's a challenge that will either make or break you. So I think it's in between there. Those are the lessons. So we build a tribe, we build a community where it's you feel appreciated, you feel that feedback is okay. And you can always come back.
I remember I was talking to one of my really amazing friends we used to play rugby together with, but now he's such an accomplished business individual. Alikuwa anasema, Kev, you need to pay whatever amount you can just to get legit feedback.
Absolutely.
Because feedback will put you ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
So I relate to it with what you're saying. But at the same time, I'm just curious, where is the opportunity when it comes to businesses? Let's say for the MSMEs, right? Even in Kenya, in a market like Nairobi, for example, where we're seeing a lot of niche products coming up. So somebody who wants to join your program, for example, where would you advise them to get into? Which spaces are there massive opportunities to get proper returns?
So for women, it's never a homogeneous answer for women. So I'll give an example of the different types of women businesses that are in our community. So there's a lady who is a peanut farmer, and she does value addition directly, and she makes peanut butter. So the conversation with her is, do you want to sell to 100 people? Or do you have capacity to sell to 200 people? So that's a conversation. So that's right, there is an opportunity. There's somebody else who's making chapatis, basic food. But then how are you adding value, and what are you doing differently for you to be able to supply? So the conversations we're always working with them is building simple business concepts. Take this as a business, look at it seriously, and then build from there. So we have businesses that have come in from real estate all the way to somebody selling chapatis but selling them very efficiently. So I like to say it's where your strengths are, because that's how women are survival entrepreneurs.
I agree.
I am starting a business because I'm underemployed. I work in an office, I'm underpaid based on my qualification, and I need to bridge this gap, and I need a dignified source of income. But I have time on Saturday and Sunday. Can I make my samosas?
Wow.
And some of them even get order samosas of up to 500. So that's a dignified income. Is that successful? Yes. So one of the conversations are also mainstreaming is let's meet the woman where she is without necessarily comparing, so that each woman can feel validated to start what they feel. So we have young graduates who are unemployed. There's one young lady who joined our community, and she was unemployed. She had just finished university, and she's built a whole business as a makeup artist, and now she's gone into cosmetic.
Nice.
Right.
And it's because we are telling her, this is how you can do it,
Yeah.
and this is where the opportunity is. So we always assess each individual,
Yeah.
and we try and meet you where you are.
Oh, nice.
And it's also okay, because some women will do that. Once they achieve their financial goals, then they move on. Yeah. So you'll find maybe I had taken a short maternity break. I just needed extra income. I'll run this business and I'll go. Or it's mango season and I have a farm. You are guaranteed of a good market. You come in. So it's really not a homogeneous response, but what you do consistently is we encourage you to track your numbers, niche your market,
Yeah,
understand the goal, understand the capacity. So we work backwards. So we say there's possibly 5,000 homes in this community. Do you want to sell to 100? Can you sell to 50? Where does it make sense for you? Yeah.
So are there any qualifications for anyone wanting to join your platform?
Nope. You just have to be a woman.
Okay.
And you don't even have to run a business. There are women who've come into a business in our community. They didn't run a business. By the way, we leverage on social media platforms. So, for example, our market is on WhatsApp. So what we do, what we simply do is I have a link.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, you want to join, plug in. I'll send you the link because at least to do the first basic due diligence.
Yeah.
You'll sign in and then you'll be admitted on this WhatsApp group. And then you can start selling or observing or buying.
Yeah.
So as long as you're a woman, you're happy to join. So our first interface is WhatsApp. We don't even have like a proper app for ourselves. We actually just leverage on the available digital tools and social media platforms that we have.
Now, there's something that you said about selling to 100 people or 500 people. Are you the one who asks them, okay, what kind of products are you doing and can you supply mass?
Yes. So when one of the things we ask you, are you joining in as a buyer? Are you joining as a seller? And then what then do you want to sell? So if you're joining in as a seller, what do you want to sell? And then our conversation. So for example, when you're having our programs running, which we open the programs at specific times of the year, when you join our training program, those are the questions we'll help you build. So one of the questions we'll ask you is, have you ever thought about your market? Have you ever thought about how many people you want to serve? Or how many people are you currently serving? And then most of the time, most people like, I've not even thought about it. So we start building from there. And then when they start documenting the numbers, they actually see the potential and they actually now go for it.
Okay. So you call Nyayo Homes. Are you basically just around Nairobi or have you expanded around Kenya?
So it's Nyayo Mom's Sokos.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. And we started off in Nyayo Estate because I live there. So the name was, it just started. Because the group that I mentioned earlier on Facebook was also called Nyayo Moms Embakasi. So then I was like, let me convert it into a market. So of course Nyayo is, so when I started looking about it, Nyayo is footprint, Moms is women, Sokos is market. So no, we are now based, I think I've mentioned, we've done a training program and they had women as far as from Nigeria. Yeah. And I shipped my body butter from Nigeria from one of the women that we supported.
That's really good.
Yeah. And again, because of digital.
Yeah. On social media, for example, Chidima, maybe you can jump in. What platform is the best to put out a product, marketing, get massive engagement? What do you think is dope for business?
I think that the different platforms have their strength, but I'm particularly biased towards Twitter because I think that one thing Twitter helps is that it allows for conversations in a way that Instagram, LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn also allows for conversations, but very niche, professional type conversations. But I think Twitter specifically because, for instance, if I'm trying to buy something and I want to see actual feedback from people who have used that particular product, I can just go on Twitter and search that particular product, and I know that I'm going to get honest reviews on that. So I think Twitter is one platform that, as a business, if you're able to hack, if you're able to build a community on there, you can definitely be able to sell your goods to a large number of people, because on Twitter you can get real-time feedback, you can engage with your customers, you can be able to build some sort of like a brand voice, a brand for yourself on there. So I'm leaning more towards Twitter specifically, because Instagram, I think Instagram is a lot more, very happy, very chill, very chill.
Isn't
platform.
that a good thing?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing, but if I wanted like an honest review on something, I would not check Instagram. I wouldn't check Instagram. I'll check Twitter. Yeah, so that's why I'm leaning more towards Twitter. So I think that, but then again, I think most business people will shy away from Twitter because of that negative, energy and that negative. But I think if you're very careful around the brand that you're building on there, it can be a really good market for you as a business owner.
And in your foundation, for example, where's your biggest expense? When it comes to the day-to-day running of this foundation, where do you guys, focus all your expenses on mostly?
On funding entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's like our largest budget, because like I said, every year we fund 1,000 entrepreneurs across Africa, $5,000 each, non-refundable for their business. So that's a huge expense, and it's in dollars, and you know how the dollar has been playing a fast one on all of us. So that's our biggest expense. And aside that, another big expense that we have would be for our application drive every year, because we want to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to access this type of grants, the trainings and everything. So we do our best to ensure that the message is getting to the most remote parts of Africa, and one way we're able to do that is through like heavy marketing, also through our alumni community, which is really strong, because these are the people who are able to tell the story of what we're doing, of what the impacts of what the foundation has done on their business, and then encourage others to also apply and tap in.
That's amazing. Just the other day we were talking about the power of telling stories and documenting stories, and I believe not just for politics and even for business people, it is very important for Africans to document the stories, talk about how you navigated through this crazy markets of ours. Speaking of crazy, actually, ever since COVID, many businesses have struggled. It's almost as if you're transitioning to somewhere that no one's so sure how it's going to look like. All this disruptive technology, AI is now in the game. But if you look at, I don't know how much you consume Kenyan stories, but some of the biggest challenges that, for example, even the Kenyan workforce has gone through is just being so depressed and stressed. There's a lot of layouts, job insecurities, and I can even imagine for business owners, even for the MSMEs, right? You guys come off as very grounded and sharp, have your thoughts going on, like you guys have figured out this this Biashara thing. Even as she's in business, I'm sure she relates to what I'm saying. How do you teach some of your students, some of these upcoming people women in business, how do you teach them how to stay grounded and sharp and solid at a time when there's so much apathy, for example, in Kenya?
Okay, so
business is not good. The business environment is also expensive. Energy, electricity, internet.
I think for us, it's leaning more, like you said, I've been in business. So the thing you're talking about is it's very close to my heart, because I've also been in that dark place as a business owner. So the first thing I did is to, first of all, own that story and share it. So I think even when you share, you draw some level of empathy.
Right.
And then it is to remind people that it's going to be okay, and you don't have to die because you're running a business. So it's also to, again, build a community where people can feel safe and they come and speak to you. But one of the things that we've incorporated in our training module is entrepreneur wellness. So we have a whole module on that, where we have basic tools and resources, where we equip women with just how do you navigate this, how do you navigate that. And we also hold sessions. We also hold online sessions to just have conversations. And we've also just put it out there, and people do know. One of our co-founders is a therapist, amazing therapist.
Very nice.
And we do offer these services or give referral pathways. So we've mainstreamed the conversation. We try to remove the stigma around all those things that can happen. We come from a culture where we are taught to not talk about our problems.
I agree.
And especially women.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just
stay stoic.
Taliban. Stay Taliban, So those are some of the things we are trying to teach. And how well do you teach? Show versus tell. So like I sometimes just go on my WhatsApp status and I talk about, hey, remember that there's this community. I've talked about the hard things that have hit me. Am I grounded? Sometimes not.
Oh, you're human.
Many times not. In fact, this year, I've particularly just slowed down so that I can recover mentally.
You did this intentionally.
Very intentionally. And it's because things are not working out.
Yeah.
You've fundraised, you've done everything. You've written proposals, huko pale, but money is not coming. So what did I do? I said, okay, let me slow down so that I can have clarity. And in that place of clarity, I actually found a direction. So I was able to now figure out how to navigate back the business and then go back strong.
Yeah.
So it's also okay to take a rest.
Would you encourage women in the later stages, probably in that phase of even maybe retirement, to get into these programs? Maybe if yeah, talk about that.
I have an amazing story. One of my co-founders, her name is Martha. She's a lovely lady. She had retired, and I pulled her back to help me run this business.
Very nice.
Because she had a strength that I didn't have. So that's another thing. When you're running a business, get to know what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So I am very visionary. Like, I take something and I run with it, and I forget to look back. So I needed somebody to ground me in terms of, let's now build the house. I know that's where you want to go. So Martha, who I specifically brought in as a co-founder, is the one who grounds me in systems, in bookkeeping, in telling the numbers that I, on a normal day, I'd go and sell.
She already had those skills.
She had already had those skills. She had worked, she had retired, and she was serving the community. And I said, can we come and run this business together? So we've been able to really put together this very strong thing. So that's another tip.
Yeah.
Don't do it alone.
Yeah. I usually say, there's no point of you going to the village just because you've retired.
Absolutely.
To just fade away and you can get into business.
And she also has been able to set up, just by learning digital. In fact, she keeps saying, somea digital hapo too in the Nyayo Mums.
Oh, nice.
So she now runs an amazing business as well. And she got her customers from the same market that we ran.
Wow, that's amazing.
So now she runs a whole business, went back, and she's really putting her skill and her time into effort.
Yeah.
So we do encourage women who are also retired to come back. And one of the things we are also experimenting is to see how we can bring them back as gig workers.
Whoa.
Because one of the things that small businesses are not, and are struggling with is bookkeeping, virtual assistants. So I think there's a whole opportunity on how we can bring them back into the workforce as gig workers, because they do have some skill sets that the average digital savvy person doesn't have, and even the patience and the counsel and the business grit and just the grounding around that space.
So like many business coaches for people in different sectors.
Yes.
Absolutely like that.
Yeah.
So they'll bring in the most of the women who worked and they retired. They worked in proper systemic organizations, and you do know governance is a huge component of business at a certain level. So I think they can bring back that into the business.
So we've heard a bit about your background, but I want to know yours. Like, how did you get into this space?
I think mine is straightforward and maybe a little boring because I studied mass comm in uni, and I think comms and media is something that I've always just had interest in growing up. I remember like in primary school, you know how you have like primary school parties, and I would be the one to read the news at these parties, and the parents would be like, oh my god, you're really good at this. So at first I wanted to do broadcast, but then I just decided to try out something new, still media related. And then I worked at a PR agency in Lagos, Nigeria. And I found it really interesting. I liked the fact that it made me think, it made me really tap into my creative side, which I really wasn't really aware of how much I had that. And I really enjoyed it. And that's how I started my journey. I started as an intern in a PR agency, and then I worked my way up, and then now I work with the Tony Elumelu Foundation. But then also, aside from that, I wanted to do comms in a way that was impactful to me. Like I wanted to be able to build campaigns that actually had meaning. Campaigns that either would change people's perception about a particular thing or would encourage people to, be better or take better chances for themselves. And when the opportunity came, to work at the foundation, I was very happy to just grab it because it just seemed like the perfect alignment for what I wanted to do for myself.
Yeah.
And that's my background basically.
I like that. So you've been with the Lagos market, you've seen the Nigerian market, you've seen the Kenyan market. Is there things in the Kenyan market that you've seen that's more advanced than the one in Nigeria? It's all right.
You know what you just reminded me of? You know what you're reminding me of? There's an awesome channel, where they usually put countries against each other. Like, for example, now Uganda versus Nigeria, and then they ask, where's the biggest opportunity in Nigeria? And then they ask the Kenyan, where's it like that? So that's really amazing. You know, I'm just curious. As she answers that question, maybe you can add on and say, do you actually consider Kenya to be a land of opportunity?
I do, actually. So this is my first time in Kenya, and this is my first time in Kenya. And I remember as soon as we landed, I was just telling my colleague how I felt like it was just so different, you know, from Nigeria, from the experience at the airport to the drive down to our apartments. It was just very different. I really don't want to, you know, I don't want my Nigerian brothers and sisters to come for me. But I think that the difference is a lot. But then one thing that I see in common is we have a lot of young entrepreneurs here in Kenya. One of the first activities that we had, my colleague and I, when we got to Kenya, was an alumni meetup with some of our Kenyan alumni. And you could just see that passion. You could just see, you know, that willingness to want to build something in spite of, you know, how stifling the environments might be. You could just tell that these people are really passionate about what they're doing. And it's really the same thing in Lagos. So Kenya and Lagos, for the TF alumni, those are, you know, most vibrant alumni hubs that we have. We have a lot of young people doing amazing things, building amazing businesses. So it's an energy that I like to be around. You know, it's a vibe that I really just like to connect with. I'm not an entrepreneur, or I've started businesses, I've run businesses in the past, but like just being around that community, being around people who are very ambitious, people who are very driven. Personally, it's and especially because I work in comms, and part of what I do on a day-to-day would involve like covering success stories of our alumni, checking in on them to see how far they've come. Personally, for me, I find that very inspiring. You know, it also does something for me personally, right? So I just like being around that energy. So in terms for your question, it's very different. Kenya is very different.
Kenya wins, That's what she's trying to say. But she doesn't want to piss off a Nigerian.
I didn't say that, guys.
Yeah. But you know one thing I like about Nigeria, though? Well, we were actually talking about this before we came through, when we were preparing the show.
Okay.
You guys, I think there's a massive opportunity in the food industry in Nigeria. There's so much food in Nigeria compared to Kenya, hands down.
Fair enough, yes.
Easily.
Diversity.
Girl, I don't know how you... Do you like our food?
Yeah, I tried Kenyan food yesterday and I really liked it.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
So now I'm loving the energy in this conversation. How can other women out there listening to us, how can they support women in your communities?
First of all, I always say, if you're spending 100 shillings, can 50 shillings go to a woman business? So I've been very intentional on that. So it would be, for example, them going to our Facebook page, going to our Instagram page, looking at the businesses that are there and buy from them or hire some of their services. So we're out there on social media, go out there and promote some of those businesses that are already listed on our platform. How else can they support? Women, I do know one of the underrepresentation for women is funding, and sometimes I feel very sad because when conning happens, you know, like this pyramid schemes, the worst hit are usually women.
Oh, really?
And I was just about to ask that.
The worst hit are usually, it's because, I'm not so sure, I don't have data and statistics, but if you look at the pyramid schemes are either driven by a religious institution, some religious people who put this coming around it, women are the worst hit. So maybe we need to just put this money in a basket and fund women businesses. And then if you're a woman and you're thinking, where do you want to do charity? Funding your friend's business is also an option as an investor. So it's also me calling out women saying, hey, can we invest in other women's businesses? And then the other thing is, in the procurement spaces, if there's a young business that's owned by a woman and you're sitting in the procurement position, share the opportunities. send us the, what do they call them? The tender.
RFP.
The our request for proposals, request for quotations, the tender documents, send them to us, and then we'll distribute to other women who can also apply. Because I think it has to be very pragmatic. And then most important, just give us shout-outs.
Yeah, man. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Give
Put
us
the word out there. But then let me ask you,
put the
'cause this
word
is
out there.
basically e-commerce that we're talking about. What are some of the concerns for women getting into the digital space? Like they're getting into e-commerce. When they approach you and they're excited about the program, what are they worried about mostly?
Bullying. Bullying is one of the biggest worries.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of women are afraid to go on the internet because they're afraid they come to us and they say, hey, can I not be there? Can you be the one pushing for me?
Oh, for real?
Yes, can you be the one pushing for me? Because I don't want to be on the front line.
I don't want to put my face out there.
I don't want to put my face out there. I don't want to put this. So there's that. So bullying happens. And of course, it attacks women. And I think you've seen it.
Of course, I've seen it.
Yeah. I've been a victim.
Oh, you've
I
been?
continue to be a victim.
Oh, no.
Where somebody known to you just outrightly attacks you.
Yeah.
So bullying is a big thing. And it weighs women down. It does. Bullying and harassment. And then, of course, how we've been socialized.
In what sense?
Most African women, we've been told you need to be, is it seen and not heard?
Women are supposed to be seen
and not heard.
Yes.
So it's a very subconscious thing that, especially in my generation, maybe the Gen Zs have actually just turned that around. But the millennials, we still carry that a lot.
Yeah. Sure.
So we are still very minimalist around blowing our own trumpet, taking accolades. And I'm also a victim of that. Where I'm thinking, am I being too much? Am I saying so much? So you question yourself first before you go out there. So I think there's the visible and the invisible barriers. And then, of course, the outright other things, social norms. What will people say about me? Do I need to get permission? Where do I need to get permission from? I know other women who have to seek
the partners,
permission. Partners.
Exactly.
Parents.
I was going to actually,
Parents. Even
parents as well?
Oh, yeah, parents as well.
What?
Yeah,
the parents who don't want their kids to get into business online?
They do not want their
and
daughters.
I would understand, though.
Their daughters to be online.
I would understand the fear that, but also I would understand the fear that some parents have, especially when their younger daughters want to get into e-commerce. They're like, hey, what kind of business is this? They're going to start thinking, that platform where some women go, it's called what? Where like you take a picture of your body and then, people...
They're called OnlyFans.
Yes.
Some parents actually imagine, what is e-commerce for you?
Yeah.
OnlyFans. No. They just assume, you're just going to do some really bad stuff. So I understand what you're saying. The perception has to change, especially in our culture. We need to be very open-minded as parents, as society, even men.
Yeah.
You're married, whether your woman doesn't have to be a housewife. If she doesn't have a job, she can do something for herself online.
But even as you're saying that, you can imagine, think about the dynamic, because for you to be online, sometimes I spend a lot of time on my phone and on my laptop. Today was one of those days. For some women that may not work because unafanya nini hapo, unaongelesha nani kwa simu, who are you speaking to, who are you? So I think there's all those invisible barriers that you need to address, and to just be our own agents of that, because it's a space we really have to consistently break those barriers as we go on, because also digital is evolving very fast. Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying e-commerce has a lot of insecurities that comes with it.
Absolutely, it does. And then also the usual same old scamming. Click this link, your money goes.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with the latest trends on e-commerce, especially for your community's purposes? Because you're instilling education in them.
So for me, I am privileged to be part of a learning community.
Okay.
So I am also a trained digital trainer.
Okay.
So sometimes I sneak back. Like right now, I'm actively working with a global organization because they're retraining us to go and train content creators. So I recently just got recalled into that role by the person who's running the gig. So like right now, I'm reskilling myself. So reskilling is very important. And then also a lot of these social media platforms have learning sites. So once in a while, if I'm not browsing on the internet, I'm actually just catching up. Quick, like what's the latest update on WhatsApp? Who knows what's the latest?
Girl,
Have you seen? You
I'm
can
tired
send
of
a love.
keeping up.
You can send a love heart on
Yeah.
on,
Can
on
you-
WhatsApp.
oh yeah, I've seen that. The green
You
one.
can art.
Yeah.
You can art.
Yeah.
I've seen the little video, so you can make your video into a little bubble. And then
Absolutely,
you speak on
absolutely.
it.
See, now
So
me, I'm
there
a
you go.
millennial. I'm struggling to keep up with these things.
There you go. So the same spaces you're in, like
Yeah.
anytime there's an update, most
Yeah,
of those
that's
platforms will tell you. Just click to. Even your Google will always tell you these are the updates you're making. These are. So I think for me, I always go for the updates.
Yeah.
The updates that these platforms are actually giving. So that's my first go-to. And then if it attracts me, then I lean deeper.
So.
Yeah.
Steph, you're going to wrap up in style?
Yeah. So I'm gonna take both of you down memory lane. What was one song for you back in the 20s that used to be your jam, like your go-to when you're happy, sad?
You just made your money.
Yeah.
You know,
Just play
stepping
that.
out.
You know, I
maybe.
grew up in the boy band and the Spice Girl generation. So let me give it a thought.
Girl, take your time. And actually, even you, I think you can think of saying.
Yeah.
Chidimma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
So, we can actually play some of your tunes over here.
I'm torn between two.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm torn between 3T. I'll give you love. You know that song?
Yeah.
And then I'm also torn. So that and Mariah Carey. We were as one, babe. I don't know if for a moment in time.
I know that one. Too.
And it's in everlasting that you will always be mine. You know those things, yeah? Love, mushy songs, yeah. So between those two.
I'm trying to get the Mariah Carey one. What's the name again, JP? I'm sure you know this one.
It's in my head.
I'm sure you know this one.
Leave me alone for a minute.
Hold on, it was coming, yeah?
It was coming. I was already at the
Yeah.
chorus. Though.
I'm trying to remember the title.
Yeah, but 3T,
Yeah.
I'll give you love was also very nice. Over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
Mariah for sure.
Yeah. So let me see what I'll do for the 3T one. And you, Emanuela?
What's coming to my head is this song by Lagbaja. I don't know if you guys know Lagbaja.
Nah.
He's a Nigerian artist.
Yeah.
He wears like a mask over
Yeah.
his face.
Yeah.
He had this popular song "Never Far Away" with Ego. Yeah, I grew up listening
Yeah.
to that and was
That's
a jam,
amazing.
still a jam till now. Yeah.
Damn, Joe. I think you're gonna have to get us that one. Yeah, because we play the classical ones. You know, R&B. You know, neo soul. Have you got any soul music? Maybe. Even hip hop music. We are very
Why is no
open.
one coming to mind?
Maybe some Asher.
I'm thinking.
Some Asher Raymond, some Chris Brown, anything like that.
Beyonce. It's Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I might get one for you.
I need to find the title of the song.
Yeah. All right. So remember, guys, by the way, we've been hanging out with some really, really amazing guests talking about enabling women reach their economic goals through digital platforms. We've had the one and only Maureen Amakabane.
Yes.
I love your name. She's the founder at Nyayo Moms Soko Kenya Limited and the one and only Chidimma Emanuela. Yes. Maybe you can just tell us again, what's the name of your foundation?
The Tony Elumelu Foundation.
I love it.
He was supposed to come actually, but I think he's been a bit too busy.
No, that was her colleague.
Well, that was her colleague.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben. The Tony Elumelu Foundation. Google him.
Yeah, he's
Tony
quite
Elumelu,
big.
yeah,
It's
yes.
possible to have him on Spice.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
So have you found your song, Emanuela?
Not yet.
Oh my
So
God.
the one
Should
she
I-
was saying is
Yeah.
always be my baby. But
Always-
Yes,
Yeah.
that
That's
one.
Mariah.
That one. That
Mariah.
one.
Jeez, JP,
No, Mariah.
very impressive.
Music
I got it.
encyclopedia.
I got it. So, sir, as you think of as the Chidimma thinks of her favorite track,
Yeah.
we're going to start off with some "Always Be My Baby" Mariah, and then some 3T, and then hopefully we're going to play a Chidimma's track. Right now, I see it's 8:28. It's been real. We're coming back with cruising the internet.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
Oh, we're gonna have